Amazing transformation. Overworked maid discovers unexpected kindness from CEO after 3 tough jobs. Maria stared at the gleaming desk in the CEO's office, the golden insignia of the corporation gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. She gripped her cloth tighter, the fabric rough against her calloused palms. The looming presence of her 3 jobs pressed heavily on her shoulders, a reminder of the relentless cycle of bills, childcare, and unyielding demands to keep her head above water. She offered a silent prayer that tonight would be smooth, that no whispers of future layoffs would pierce her fragile peace. Her heart raced with every key stroke and every rustle of papers she meticulously tended to. The wealthy men and women around her seemed to float through life, solving problems she couldn't even fathom. And yet, as she dusted the mahogany shelves, a chill coursed through her veins when she overheard snippets of conversation from the corner office, a cost-cutting initiative, reducing workforce, and necessary sacrifices. Her stomach dropped. The thought of losing this job, her anchor in this storm, sent waves of anxiety crashing through her. The heaviness of the moment was unbearable. She couldn't falter, not now. Not with her kids, Sophia and Matteo, depending on her with their innocent eyes that watched her world teeter on the edge of a precipice. But despair had edged its way into her mind, especially after that parent-teacher conference. The teacher's words like struggling and needs additional help echoed relentlessly in her head. Was she failing? Such thoughts suffocated her, intensifying the weight of her dual consciousness. The devoted mother and the exhausted maid, desperately trying to find a way to be good enough at both. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Alex, the CEO, entered unexpectedly, a whirlwind of corporate intensity. She braced herself for dismissal, for the icy indifference she had come to expect from the world of affluence. Instead, he paused, a flicker of empathy etched on his features as he caught sight of her exhausted posture. In that fleeting moment, she saw more than a powerful man in a suit. She saw a human being, grappling with pressures she knew so well. He didn't steer the conversation back to his phone calls. Instead, he asked her about her day. And when she spoke carefully, tentatively about her children and her struggles, she saw him lean in, genuinely listening. Something inside her stirred an unexpected wave of recognition, perhaps, or an ember of forgotten hope reigniting within the backdrop of her daily grind. Just as she began to see possibilities skirting the edges of despair, the call from the school arrived. The voice on the other end explored shades of panic. "We need you to come in, Maria. It's about Sophia." The calm she had just begun to glimpse shattered, the shards embedding deeper with each word. Maria's breath quickened, the euphoric connection she experienced with Alex fading as her mind raced ahead, the unyielding weight of her decisions back, immediate family commitments crashing into soaring ambitions. Could she stand at that crossroads and choose a path? The looming impact of both aspirations and responsibilities sharpened into focus, her heart aching with torn loyalty as urgency gripped her. She tore her gaze from the polished desk, staring at the door. Fear mingled with desperation, pushing her to contemplate a decision that would impact everything. Would she be able to rise above for Sophia and Matteo without losing herself? And what if seeking something more meant sacrificing the very foundations of their family ties? It was a pivotal moment, a furtive glimpse into an uncertain future that left her gasping for breath, teetering on the verge of life-altering choice. Maria's fingers trembled as she pressed the phone against her ear, the anxious voice from the school swirling in her mind like an angry storm. Thoughts of Sophia and her fragile well-being consumed her. She needed to act fast. The supportive tête-à-tête with Alex now felt like a distant memory, one that stirred a longing for a life where the burdens of motherhood and work weren't constantly at odds. Dropping the cloth, she turned on her heel and made a beeline toward the office door. This was more than just a job, it was a lifeline. The weight of the moment settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak, but she had to push through. Each step toward the exit felt monumental, filled with the echoes of the office that held promises and dreams she hadn't dared to fully explore. A small flicker of determination ignited within her. This was her opportunity to show her children that fighting for a better future was worth every ounce of effort. As she reached the receptionist's desk, she forced a smile that felt foreign on her face. "Can you let them know I'm leaving for the day?" She had always been the caretaker, the dependable one, but today felt different. There was an urgency in her voice that hinted at change, uncertainty, and perhaps hope. "Of course, Maria," the receptionist replied. There was sympathy in her eyes, a reflection of the shared struggle that lingered in the air of the office. Slipping out into the bustling city street, the cool air hit her like a wake-up call. The relentless chatter of cars and people reminded her that life outside continued, indifferent to personal crises. As she hurried to the school, Maria's mind swirled with thoughts of how to balance her obligations at home and what she had just glimpsed in the corridors of the corporate world. Each block she crossed fueled a conversation brewing in her head. What would she say to Sophia? Would there be a way to motivate her daughter without overwhelming her? The notion of being a better mother, someone her children could turn to, fueled her resolve. But that vision was rife with complications. Could she juggle it all? Could she push for her own aspirations while ensuring her kids never felt neglected? Arriving at the school, she was met by the principal, whose demeanor was serious and cared deeply, but it filled Maria with dread. She followed him into the small, sterile conference room, her heart hammering like a frantic drum. Sophia sat in a chair, looking small and lost, and the tension in the room crackled as Maria's maternal instinct surged to the forefront. "Mom," Sophia's voice trembled, and it ignited a fierce protectiveness in Maria. She wanted to shield her daughter from all the harsh realities of the world, but that was impossible. Instead, Maria would fight to equip her to encounter them head-on. The principal laid bare the challenges surrounding Sophia's performance in class, indicating a need for assistance that made Maria's heart sink. His words were wrapped in a mixture of guidance and concern, urging for proactive measures to help her daughter. As her mind spiraled with thoughts of all the ways she had fallen short, a looming sense of failure shadowed her motherly pride. At that moment, Maria realized she was staring into a mirror. The fight within her was ignited. If she had struggled, then she could show Sophia how to rise up from it. The path forward was not just about securing her own job or helping her daughter. It was about rediscovering resilience amidst chaos. "Let us figure this out, Sophia," Maria said, her voice steady. "We can do this together." The corner of her daughter's mouth lifted, and it filled Maria with renewed purpose. Perhaps, this time, they could rebuild the foundations together. As they emerged from the meeting, Maria felt the pull of ambition intertwined with the stability she wished to provide. She made a silent vow, not just to herself, but for her children. She would seek an opportunity within the walls of that corporation. They deserved more, and so did she. With newfound determination coursing through her veins, she looked back toward the tower that loomed in the distance, a symbol of dreams undaunted by fear. The time had come to face the unknown. How far was she willing to go to ensure her family flourished? Maria stepped away from the school, her breathing steadier, though her mind raced with ideas and potential paths forward. Despite the weight of the principal's words, there was an exhilarating sense of freedom in the air. She was driven to navigate this period of uncertainty not merely as a mother, but also as an individual rekindling her own aspirations. Back on the bustling street, the city felt alive, but Maria could no longer lose herself in the ordinary distractions. Each passerby represented a life story, a struggle she might relate to, and she understood that her resolution to evolve couldn't afford to wait. Her heart hammered with a mix of fear and excitement. What if she approached her supervisor at work, formulated a new project, asked for a shadowing opportunity? The idea of being proactive surged within her like a tidal wave. This was a window of possibilities she must seize. But first, she needed to strategize. She returned home, glancing at the dish piles and chaotic clutter that felt all too familiar. While washing dishes, Maria's thoughts drifted. Already envisioning a conversation with her supervisor, she mentally rehearsed her pitch, flipping between uncertainty and resolute ambition. But were her ideas strong enough? Did she truly believe she deserved this new path? That night, while her children slept, she sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, searching for potential projects at work, diving deep into industry trends. Concepts flowed, stimulating her dormant creative juices. Each page she scrolled revealed professionals that had shaped their journeys, and suddenly, she realized she could shape her own story. The burgeoning excitement overshadowed her exhaustion. Energized, she settled into her thoughts. What core beliefs had shaped her into the person she was? What unique skills could she leverage? The face of the confident woman she aspired to be pressed against the walls of her consciousness, eager to break free. Maria was capable, not just of maintaining her family, but of weaving her dreams into reality. The next day brought with it a renewed sense of purpose. At the office, she pushed her usual deferential attitude aside and presented her ideas to her supervisor. Her palms frigid, she offered what she had drafted, a plan to analyze workflow inefficiencies that would ultimately save time and resources. The supervisor listened intently, eyes focused, and for the first time, Maria saw them as not just an authority figure, but a partner in potential. Interesting, he remarked, nodding slowly. Could we schedule a meeting to discuss the details further? Maria's heart leapt. This was the shift she had longed for. She was no longer seeking approval. She was paving her own path. Yet within the burgeoning optimism lay a gnawing thought. What if she failed? What if her plans were seen as unfeasible? The fear of rejection mingled with her excitement like a mist, threatening to cloud her newfound clarity. It felt unnerving to hang so much on the response of a single individual. As she walked away from the office that day, internally grappling with these concerns, her resolve solidified. This was not just about career advancement, but also modeling resilience for Sophia. She imagined her daughter being inspired, not merely by her successes, but by her willingness to stand up and be heard. Each step forward would echo through their lives. But with ambition came risks that had to be managed carefully. Every success demanded sacrifices, and sacrifices could lead to unforeseen consequences. What would happen if she struggled to balance both worlds? The reality loomed. Larger success required more than ambition. It called for sacrifice, commitment, and an unwavering belief in herself. She stared at the office building from the bus stop, uncertainty mixed with determination. Could she really navigate this duality? In that moment, the doors of potential opened wider than she had dared to imagine. Yet, with this newfound ambition, Maria wondered, what sacrifices would she have to make to ensure her dreams didn't clash with her responsibilities? The real challenge had just begun. The meeting was set for the following Tuesday, and as the day approached, Maria felt her anticipation morph into anxiety. Each tick of the clock seemed to amplify the voices in her head that questioned her readiness. Could her ideas stand up to scrutiny? Would her supervisor find her proposal grounded, or would it crumble under the weight of reality? In the hours leading up to the meeting, she meticulously reviewed her notes. She constructed charts and graphs that illustrated the potential impact of her project. The more she prepared, the more she realized something essential was at stake, not just her project, but her very sense of self. The boundaries separating her identity as a mother and an employee felt like flimsy ribbons, and she wanted to weave them into a broader tapestry of who she could become. When Tuesday finally arrived, Maria slipped into the office, her outfit carefully chosen to reflect the professional mindset she was striving for. She took a deep breath before stepping into the meeting room. As her supervisor greeted her, their handshake felt firm, conveying an unexpected respect that seemed to bolster her confidence. "Thanks for coming in," he said, gesturing towards the chair across from him. "I'm eager to hear about your ideas." Maria launched into her presentation, her voice steady yet passionate. Each statistic felt like a stepping stone, leading her toward what she hoped would be a turning point. She highlighted the inefficiencies she had observed, detailing the time lost and potential savings. As she spoke, she watched for flickers of interest in her supervisor's eyes, hoping for validation. "Very intriguing," he offered, pausing to consider. "What challenges do you foresee in implementing this?" Maria felt her heart thud against her chest. Here lay the crux of her self-doubt. The greatest challenge would likely be resistance to change. People are often wary of new processes. She hesitated, wrestling with an impulse to shield herself with caution. But she knew that this was part of the journey to embrace challenges rather than shy away. However, I believe with the right communication and involvement, we can build support across departments. Her supervisor nodded thoughtfully, flipping through her materials. You've clearly put a lot of thought into this. It's commendable. As the meeting progressed, Maria felt a slow but unmistakable shift within herself. She was no longer merely presenting an idea. She was advocating for it, making a case that echoed her desire for growth. The questions that followed were probing but constructive, encouraging a dialogue that felt collaborative rather than adversarial. When they finally wrapped up, her supervisor leaned back, considering her with renewed scrutiny. I think we should implement a pilot for your proposal on a smaller scale to begin with. Test the waters, so to speak. A surge of exhilaration rushed through Maria. The path she had fought to carve was starting to take shape. Yet, within this elation, an undercurrent of vulnerability lingered. Would she be able to navigate the realities of a pilot project? As she walked out of the meeting, she felt lighter. The exhilaration of progress battled against the intimidation of what lay ahead. A flicker of self-doubt remained. What if during the pilot, the complexities of implementation exposed her ideas as ineffective? She brushed away the thought, focusing instead on the opportunity to grow. Back at her desk, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. For the first time in a long while, she was standing at a crossroads, peering deeper into the path of professional fulfillment. But this journey didn't exist in isolation. She needed to prepare herself mentally to embrace what came next, implementing her ideas, managing feedback, and navigating potential setbacks while still being present as a mother. As she pondered these weights, her focus sharpened on how far she had come and how much further she could push herself to go. With determination coursing through her, Maria began drafting a list of stakeholders she needed to engage, aware that collaboration would be vital for her success. The challenge loomed larger, but so did her resolve to succeed. Now, as she immersed herself in planning, a new thought emerged. Would her professional aspirations affect her family life in ways she hadn't anticipated? As obstacles piled up, Maria understood the importance of balancing ambition with commitment yet again. But she was no longer the passive participant in her life. She was the architect of its blueprint. The moment had arrived to face the deeper implications of her choices. How much of herself was she willing to invest in this new journey before it threatened to consume the woman she already was? The next stage of her transformation was set to unveil itself, and Maria could scarcely wait to discover what it would ultimately demand of her. The following morning, Maria woke early, her mind racing with thoughts of the pilot project. The sun streamed through her window, illuminating the clutter on her desk, design drafts, performance metrics, and her ever-present planner. It was a reflection of her multifaceted life, but today it felt chaotic. She took a moment to center herself, inhaling deeply as she contemplated her upcoming tasks. The thrill of purpose fueled her determination, yet the nagging concern about managing family responsibilities lingered. After her morning routine, which included a quick breakfast with her children, Maria sat in her car, surveying the familiar office building. The weight of the opportunity rested heavily on her shoulders, yet her gaze hardened with resolve. She slipped into the bustling office, the hum of activity serving as a reminder of the impact she aspired to have. The first task was identifying the key stakeholders for the pilot project. Each name she scribbled down represented a potential ally or adversary. She envisioned their reactions, who would support her vision, who would challenge it. As she organized her thoughts, vulnerabilities bubbled to the surface. Would she be able to inspire confidence? Could she convince them that change was not merely a risk but an opportunity? The day evolved into a whirlwind of meetings and interactions. Maria began scheduling one-on-ones with her stakeholders to discuss the pilot. Her heart raced every time she picked up the phone or sent an email, but she pushed through. Each conversation offered insights and reactions that crafted the narrative of her project. One afternoon, in a meeting with Gary, the team lead from operations, Maria felt a dawning realization. He was skeptical by nature, always looking for reasons not to implement new ideas. As she presented her concepts, she noticed the terrain shifting beneath her feet. Instead of retreating into an anxious defense, she allowed herself to lean into his inquiries, addressing his concerns with facts and empathy. "I get where you're coming from," she said, meeting his gaze directly. "Change can feel overwhelming. But what if we approach this as an experiment? one that enables us to test out the waters together rather than making any irreversible decisions? The shift was subtle, but she saw it in the way Gary's posture softened. He was listening. They spent the next half-hour brainstorming how to introduce her ideas to the rest of the team, rather than focusing solely on the potential pitfalls. This moment marked the first time the project began to feel less like a burden and more like a collaboration. As the week progressed, Maria implemented her plan to engage stakeholders. Each meeting was a dance, balancing professionalism with the authenticity she learned to embrace. Feedback was pivotal, and despite some skepticism, she welcomed all critiques as learning material. The disagreements didn't dishearten her. Rather, they sparked her creativity. It was as though the camaraderie built from shared challenges forged bonds stronger than objections. Yet, as she navigated this new territory, the family pressures began to rise again. Late-night work commitments clashed with school events, and she struggled to find her footing between projects and parenting. Could she truly juggle both without compromising one for the other? One quiet evening, while tucking her children into bed, Maria realized they had been a bit distant lately. The guilt settled heavily in her chest. After kissing them goodnight, she sat alone on the living room couch, her productivity and ambition weighing against the precious time she wished to share with her family. In that deep moment of reflection, she made a silent vow if she succeeded, she would demonstrate to her children the importance of pursuing one's dreams, while also remaining present. Perhaps it was not about choosing one over the other, but integrating both worlds. Finding harmony in the chaos. She began drafting her next outreach email to her stakeholders. Maria knew this journey was teaching her as much about her work as it was about her identity. And with each step forward, there emerged a sense of empowerment she had not anticipated. The day ended with her logging off from work, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. But on the horizon of her new endeavor loomed the reality of resistance from some corners she and yet faced. Would her newfound stakeholder engagement shift the project's trajectory? The stakes were high, and the challenges even higher. In that moment, an unexpected wave of fear washed over her. She asked herself, was she truly ready for what lay ahead? The next chapter awaited, filled with potential adversaries and the undeniable notion that change never comes easy. With the dawn of a new day, Maria's mind churned with the challenges that loomed ahead. She had successfully navigated the initial resistance, but deep down, she sensed an undercurrent of skepticism that could easily upend her progress. It was one thing to engage stakeholders in discussion, but quite another to convert them into active supporters. Each step felt like walking a tightrope, where a single miscalculation could send her tumbling. As she settled into her office chair, she glanced at the carefully arranged notes from her past meetings. Flipping through them, she recognized a myriad of concerns that echoed in her mind. Is this project truly feasible? What if it fails? Suddenly, the anxiety strong-armed her focus. She shook it off. It was time to forge ahead. Determined to solidify her proposals, Maria decided to convene a larger group discussion involving various departments. This would allow her to showcase the pilot project's potential and address collective concerns. Gathering the necessary resources for a presentation felt daunting, yet exhilarating, as she immersed herself in preparing visuals, data comparisons, and strategic insights. However, the more she immersed herself, the more she felt the familiar pull of her family calling her back home. Schedules clashed, and a creeping guilt laced her productivity. Would her children forgive her for their missed events? Moreover, she felt their disappointment settle like a shadow. It nudged her to assess the impact of her ambition. The day of the big presentation arrived. Tension coiled in her stomach as she sat up in the conference room, adjusting the projector and ensuring that documents were organized under the purposefully crafted agenda. Maria's heart fluttered as her colleagues filtered in, a mix of skepticism and curiosity filling the AI in her opening remarks. Maria projected confidence, her voice steady as she guided them through the slides that represented her vision. The goal, she began, is not merely to challenge the status quo, but to enrich our operations and enhance collaboration across departments. Yet, she could see the flickers of doubt lingering in their expressions, particularly from Gary, who had been entrenched in his belief that the current system was sufficient. Memories of their last conversation loomed in her mind as he raised his hand, interrupting her flow. Are we prepared for the consequences if this doesn't work? Maria took a moment, absorbing the weight of his question. The concern resonated with her, but instead of faltering, an idea started to form. What if we created checkpoints within the project? This way, we can assess progress, adjust strategies, and minimize risks. Gary's brow furrowed, and the others leaned in, intrigued. Their doubts softened a smidge as Maria continued to build on the idea, inviting suggestions and fostering an open dialogue. The room transformed from a collection of skeptics into a pool of potential collaborators, and the collaborative energy began to rise as the discussion swelled. Maria felt her insecurities melting away. She was not merely reacting to challenges. She was designing solutions. Each voice contributed to a larger picture, and slowly, the team began to share their own initiatives that could align with her project. Yet, while euphoria pulsed through her veins, an undercurrent of discomfort niggled deeper. Could a small setback derail what she had built? What if family obligations demanded her attention again in these crucial times? The questions spiraled, creating a looming tension that threatened to undermine her newfound confidence. After the meeting, Maria walked out of the conference room with a mix of triumph and uncertainty swirling within her. The project had garnered buy-in from many, but with the enthusiasm came increased pressure. New expectations settled onto her shoulders like a weighted blanket. Taking a breath, she resolved to tackle one issue at a time. However, as she returned to her desk, a notification chimed a calendar alert for a school performance she had promised to attend. The knowledge that she was being stretched in both directions left her breathless. Could she truly manage this balancing act without sacrificing her core values? Maria knew she was at a crossroads, and the choices she made next would ripple through both her personal life and professional aspirations in ways she had yet to fully comprehend. With her heart heavy, she glanced back at her notes, pondering the immediate challenges ahead. The path was daunting, but she felt the stirrings of growth amidst the chaos. Could the embrace of authentic support from her teams bolster her when personal conflicts drew near? The moment of truth loomed closer, and Maria wondered if she had the strength to answer not only to her role as a leader, but also to her role as a mother. Would she find the equilibrium she sought, or was the battle for balance only just beginning? Maria sat at her desk, the calendar alert still buzzing quietly in her mind. The juxtaposition of her responsibilities weighed heavily on her. The school performance was important to her children, but so too was the progress she had begun to make with the team. Competing demands pulled her in different directions, and uncertainty wrapped around her thoughts like a thick fog. Could she meet expectations on both fronts, or were these aspirations destined for failure? Shaking off the creeping doubts, she turned her focus back to her work. The team's feedback had been encouraging, but Maria realized it was just the beginning. She needed to lead with renewed clarity. She not only had to manage the project, but also cultivate an environment where her colleagues felt empowered to contribute. Her mind danced with possibilities. What if she organized a follow-up workshop to address strategic collaboration and foster team-building experiences in addition to the essential checkpoints? This could further bolster commitment and entrench her ideas into the team's fabric. The idea ignited a spark within her, but another wave of guilt swept over her as she recalled her children's excited expressions when she initially promised to attend their school event. Can they understand? She mused internally. Their innocent faces haunted her, reminding her of the price to pay for ambition. Until now, she had focused solely on the objectives ahead, but for every step she took at work, there was a moment back home where children missed her presence. Hours passed, and she delved deeper into planning beyond the presentation. Using a whiteboard, Maria crafted strategies and interrelated ideas like a spider weaving a complex web. She marked out timelines, objectives, and potential pitfalls. Each line drawn featured a double-edged reality. One side demonstrated professional aspirations, while the other whispered of personal sacrifice. The next day, as the workshop began to take shape, Gary approached her during a coffee break. "I've been thinking about your idea on checkpoints," he said, his tone more collaborative than before. "What if we added a feedback mechanism to involve the team more directly? Instead of waiting to see if something could be a failure, we could invite concerns proactively." Maria's heart raced at the unexpected shift in his demeanor. Moments like this ignited her determination, illuminating the possibilities of unity amidst doubt. "That could perfectly guide us," she replied, enthused, as she sketched out the emerging framework together. Their discussion sparked curiosity among their colleagues, creating a ripple effect of engagement. Meanwhile, doubts lingered in the shadows, threatening to creep back. What if this collaboration didn't hold long enough to sustain her project? What if Gary or someone else got cold feet again? To combat this uncertainty, Maria resolved to establish clear channels for continuous dialogue, a move that could strengthen the team's commitment and keep misunderstandings at bay. She couldn't allow prior hesitancies to dictate the project's trajectory any longer. Yet, throughout her efforts, the nagging guilt about her family remained. Every time she prepared for a strategy meeting, an echo of her children's laughter during their school events pricked at her conscience. The cyclical tension created a persistent tug of war within her. With a hesitant resolve, Maria decided that she would set aside specific days dedicated solely to her family. It was a strategic choice, one designed to prioritize her personal commitments while remaining fervently engaged in her professional life. Perhaps a calendar alert could double as a reminder for both. The discipline of time management could provide a semblance of order to her chaotic balancing act. Just as she was feeling optimistic about her plan, a sudden email notification flashed across her screen. It was an urgent update from management regarding her project's funding. Her pulse quickened as she opened the message, her heart pounding with the weight of unexpected scrutiny. This was the critical juncture that could define everything she had worked for. The stakes had just become higher. Would her strategies be enough to secure not only her standing within the company, but also the support she desperately needed from her team? As she stared at the screen, the realization hit her. The moment to solidify her identity as both a leader and a mother was drawing closer. Maria clenched her fists, feelings of anxiety and determination crashing within her like surging waves. This was not just about her career anymore. It was about resilience and redefining her role in both spheres. Could she ultimately transform this critical challenge into a triumph that honored both her professional drive and her devotion as a mother? What unfolded next would either dismantle her growing confidence or bolster it in ways she never imagined possible. Maria's gaze remained fixed on the screen, the words of the email blurring into a web of uncertainty. She felt the pulse of her heart, a stark reminder that her career hinged on the next move she would make. The deadline for the project funding loomed like a shadow, whispering doubts into her mind. What if her strategies crumbled under scrutiny? What if the team couldn't deliver? The very essence of her dual life was at stake, her ambitions entwined with her responsibilities as a mother. As she closed the email, Maria recognized that she needed more than just strategies. She needed a deeper understanding of the people around her. The democratic approach Gary suggested during their coffee break resonated in her mind. They had wrestled with collaboration decor, whose foundation now felt shaky. Would her colleagues step up under pressure, or were they still shackled by the fears that had previously stifled them? Refocusing, she initiated a team meeting to push through the tension. As she outlined the project's status and shared the management's harsh realities, she noticed the varied expressions amongst her colleagues. Eyes flickered with concern, doubt, and an inkling of determination. "We are in this together," she reminded them, her voice steady but infused with urgency. "Our collective insights can turn this project into something groundbreaking and damning failures into vital learning experiences." Maria facilitated an open dialogue, and what emerged was unexpected. Colleagues who had once held back began to voice their concerns: the budget constraints, the fluctuating timelines, the perennial threat of misalignment. Each voice contributed to the unfolding narrative, crafting a tapestry of perspectives that began to bind the team anew. With each suggestion, she felt her previously fractured confidence begin to mend. Yet, as she deftly navigated these dynamics, another thought loomed just beyond her peripheral vision: the looming family commitment that had become her growing regret. Each shared moment in the meeting paralleled moments lost with her children, whose laughter she could no longer hear as vividly. The sensation gnawed at her, but Maria steeled herself, focusing on this pivotal point. She was establishing herself as a leader, and she needed to believe that her family would understand. "Let us build something together," she said, her voice gaining momentum, and I promise to invest time and energy into not just this project, but into each of you. She made a mental note to check in with everyone individually, to foster not just professional loyalty, but a deeper emotional connection as well. Perhaps this project could not only unify the team, but also become a shared space for personal growth. Gradually, the conversation transformed, buoyed by a newfound sense of collective accountability. Each of her colleagues offered insights that sculpted a cohesive strategy, brimming with creativity. The project felt less like a heavy burden now and more like a joint endeavor that emanated resilience. As the meeting adjourned, a palpable shift lingered in the air. Maria encountered a spark of hope in her colleagues' eyes where frustration once ruled. But beneath this optimism, her burdens remained, whispering the haunting reminders of sacrifices she made for their blooming unity. The push and pull of her roles continued to exist in a delicate balance. Returning to her desk, a sense of resolve settled within Maria. With her team invigorated, she would address upper management decisively, delivering their unified vision brilliantly. But the thought of the looming school performance strangled her confidence, weighing heavily on her heart again. She found herself walking a tightrope between two worlds, and the challenge to merge them loomed ominously ahead. The email from management still awaited her response. Was she ready to step into a world of scrutiny, equipped with the newfound strength of her team's commitment? Just then, another message flashed onto her screen: the invitation to a private meeting with the CEO. The session was meant to discuss funding, but felt like a sink or swim moment. Would Maria be bold enough to negotiate for her team's future? Or would she let the moment slip, allowing the tide of pressure to wash over her? The time had come to face the hardest opponent, yet her own self-doubt. Would her leadership shine through, or would this be yet another chapter closed before it had a chance to breathe? Maria barely let the hum of her office surroundings register as she sat staring at the screen, her mind racing through possible scenarios for the upcoming meeting with the CEO. This was at a moment that could shape not just her project, but her career trajectory. Self-doubt flickered like a dying ember at the back of her mind. Why should she presume to influence someone at that level? Yet, there was a thin thread of confidence woven through her recent experiences, a spark ignited by her team's resilience. She drew a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Their collective determination, it had invigorated her spirit. Maria mentally replayed the shifts in her team dynamics, the way their voices had once faltered but now sang in unison. The change had somehow made her feel stronger. Perhaps she could lead with that same spirit in the meeting. But could she truly transform that energy into persuasive dialogue with the CEO? The real test was clarity. With a few rapid keystrokes, Maria began drafting her agenda, each point carefully selected to illustrate the project's potential and the team's pivotal role. The words flowed, pouring out both her commitment to the project and her deep respect for her team. They were a well-honed instrument now, capable of achieving something extraordinary. She couldn't let doubt drown that music out, but alongside her exhilaration, a wave of apprehension began creeping in as reminders of her family commitments resurfaced. Would her children understand her absence yet again? Each successive late night pulled her further away from their shared moments, and a gnawing sense of guilt surfaced. Did her ambition necessitate sacrificing those fleeting parent-child interactions? As the weight of the upcoming performance loomed in her mind, her resolve faltered. Maria shook her head, forcing herself to shift her focus back to helping them succeed. Instead of lingering on her insecurities, she wanted to forge a plan that left a mark not only on her company, but also on her children. The shared lessons of determination and tenacity, she thought, could serve as important life lessons. But when the day of the meeting arrived, an eerie calm enveloped her as she approached the towering glass building. The stark reality of the corporate facade contrasted sharply with her inner turmoil. She had prepared extensively, but all those moments of practice evaporated as she entered the conference room. The CEO, a sharply dressed figure whose presence dominated the space, greeted her with an intensity that sent a ripple of nervous energy through her. Maria settled herself, her palms clammy against the table. She could sense the invested eyes of the board members draped across the room, every expectation climbing high. Maria took a moment, grounding herself by recalling the vibrant discussion with her team. They were breathing life into her prepared remarks. Stepping forward, she found her voice, steady and clear, peering into the crowd of faces that held her future in their hands. Point by point, she articulated the project's potential, wrapping each insight in the context of how her team had risen to meet challenges. As she spoke, she began to see nods of acknowledgement, and familiarity washed over her heartbeat, sparking adrenaline. Then, just as she neared the momentum of her presentation, an unexpected question from the CEO struck like lightning. Why should I invest in a project led by someone who seems divided between her professional and personal life? In that moment, Maria felt all eyes focusing on her, and a swell of uncertainty boiled beneath the surface. Could she own her duality without compromising her position? Knowing she had to navigate this precarious crossroads, she had to confront her struggle directly. The entire room held its breath, awaiting her response as the path toward her self-affirmation converged in this singular moment. How would she turn the conversation back towards strength from vulnerability? It was time to make a choice: either shield her aspirations with the facade of perfection or embrace her truth. Would she seize the opportunity to transform a potentially damaging question into her strength? As she opened her mouth to speak, everything hung in the balance. Would this be the moment where her authentic self shone through, or would the inner voice of doubt strike once more? Maria inhaled deeply, letting silence wrap around her like a shield. As the CEO's question reverberated in the room, she felt the familiar pangs of doubt threatening to rise within her. Yet, there was something fundamentally different about her now, a transformation that had occurred beneath the surface. She was not merely a maid seeking a place at the corporate table. She was a mother, a dedicated worker, and a woman who had fought through adversity to stand there. I understand your concern, Maria began, meeting the eyes of each board member with clarity and conviction. Balancing my professional and personal life has been challenging, but I see it not as a weakness, but as a unique strength. I have learned to navigate tension, to prioritize and plan, and to engage my resources effectively. This journey has imbued me with resilience and creativity that are scarce in predictable situations. With each word, she felt the heaviness begin to lift. The struggles that had held her captive now served as a powerful narrative of grit. She continued, "Every decision I make is rooted in the desire to improve the lives of my children and the productivity of my team. By embracing my dual roles, I have developed a critical perspective that the company can benefit from. I am compelled to ensure our mission aligns not only with organizational goals, but also with the values we cherish as individuals." As she spoke, Maria witnessed subtle shifts throughout the room. Skepticism transformed into curiosity, and she leaned into the energy. "I've gathered insights from my team that can revolutionize our approach. The blend of my experiences as a mother and a maid informs my drive, but it is also about fostering collaboration and nurturing every voice in our midst." For the first time, she felt genuine empowerment surge through her voice. Maria felt solid confidence bolstered by her newfound competence as she illustrated her success stories as a means of overcoming obstacles. Each anecdote reflected the lessons they all needed to hear. Embracing vulnerability is not a harbinger of failure, but a catalyst for unprecedented growth and innovation. With the narrative woven seamlessly into her proposal, Maria portrayed specific achievements and growth metrics she could implement, demonstrating that she had conquered the intricacies of collaboration and project development. "I propose we move forward with a pilot program, engaging our team in every step and addressing potential roadblocks together, cultivating support along the way." There was an invigorating pause. The CEO's attentive expression hinted at contemplation. Other board members exchanged glances, and in that moment, she realized they were connecting to her story, and, perhaps more importantly, with her authenticity. She did not step away from her struggles. Rather, she addressed them head-on. As the QA began, the dialogue turned constructive. Questions shifted from criticism to curiosity, and the atmosphere morphed from one of skepticism to collaboration. Ideas flowed freely, bridging the once-distant corporate divide. Maria effectively transformed the meeting into a workshop of collective insights, realizing how much she had grown, no longer just an employee, but a leader with resonance. When it concluded, the CEO expressed gratitude. "Maria, Your perspective has opened new horizons for our initiative. We'll move forward with your plan." Her heart soared, no longer just tethered to the surface of the bills and responsibilities, but triumphantly secure in her established position. Maria left that boardroom not just with approval for her project, but with profound recognition of her growth. She had conquered fear and emerged empowered both as a mother and a professional. Outside, she allowed herself a moment of celebration. The skyline that had once seemed to loom over her now sparkled with promise. Walking home later that evening, she felt different, grounded, and fulfilled, a reflection of the woman she had always aspired to be. Maria had proven to herself that her journey was not only valid but vital. Ahead lay the path of ongoing challenges and responsibilities, but now they were no longer insurmountable. She knew the stakes had evolved, and she had evolved with them. As she entered her home, surrounded by laughter and excitement from Sophia and Matteo, a deep-seated pride unfurled within her. She would show her children what it meant to chase dreams unapologetically. Emboldened by her achievements, she made a mental note to prioritize family nights amidst ambition, demonstrating that success and love could intertwine beautifully. Maria glanced at her children with renewed purpose. She had embraced her dual roles and would continue to cultivate a legacy built on resilience and empowerment, leaving an indelible mark on her family. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this fulfilling ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this triumphant conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.